So thank you again to the Littmans now, back in Littman home, for the final shir for the Pesach series. And the shir should be also לעילוי נשמת אסתר bas Yehuda, and she is chus for neshama, and for Rebbetzin, who still needs for Shlema, Rebbetzin Weiss, still needs Pesach bas Leah, Hashem Pesach Chol Yisrael. Okay, so we covered the first week. We covered Pesach cleaning. The second 2 weeks, which only one of them was posted on YouTube. Unfortunately, the other one got lost, but I think I condensed it both into the second one. We spoke about koshering, and we went over all the aspects of koshering the kitchen, and what needs to be done to get it ready. What I would like to try to finish off with this week, if any questions, at the end we'll take questions, about it, without the whole, all the Pesach topics, or just a regular open question and answer about Pesach. What I'd like to go through now, though, is the halacha specifically of Bedikat Chametz. Yeah.
Could I just ask you before you start? Last week we asked a question about this induction hobs. I don't know if you want to answer.
Yeah, no. So I looked around. So it looks like there's apparently two types. A ceramic thing you can't kosher. So if you can't kosher it, you can't kosher it, and that's that. Okay. Apparently there are induction tops where it's just a metal plate that you put the metal pot directly on. But I'm telling you, I didn't look into yet. But this is just you have to look. But I'm pretty sure that you could put something in between, a piece of plastic or something in between. No, I don't know about metal, but I think even something else you could put in between. Okay, so I'll have to look into it, and I'll speak to your husband about it. But I'm pretty sure that if the fact is that you could put something else in between, so then I would kosher the area. I would pour boiling water over the area and then cover it and keep it covered over Pesach. If that will work, then that would be mutter to do. If not, then you wouldn't be able to use that surface. You can cover it and just use that as a countertop. You can't.
The other question also was the hostess trolley, whether or not.
I don't know about how to pour it out. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to do. I wanted to ask him why he's not back yet. I'm not sure. I hope he'll be back with enough time to ask. I'm not sure how hot it gets that you actually would need to kosher it rather than just clean it out. If it never reaches Yad Zoletisbo, which is what I'm not sure.
Cook an egg on it.
Yeah, or hot enough that if you put your hand in there, your hand gets burned. I'm saying the food gets burning hot from there. Or
really practice is your listening to. Can you put your hand on it?
I can put my hand on it, but it will burn my hand eventually. I got to take it off.
But will your hand jump back like if you were touching a stovetop?
No.
Okay, so I don't know that it would need to be kashered at all, other than just cleaned out very well. I don't know. Maybe I'll come sometime and see it with David, and I'll turn it on and see what the story is, because it's hard to tell exactly what it is. I tried to look around online. I didn't see anybody who spoke about it in terms of koshering, which makes me think that maybe it doesn't get to that temperature. Okay, well I'll try to take a look at it. I didn't say anything more about that, but the induction top I looked into.
How long does it take to heat a chicken up on your platter?
Platter, once it's hot, you burn. You can't put your hand on it.
No, but
and if liquid drips on it, it goes like it sizzles.
Right, does the water sizzle on it? It can't be. If your hand can sit on there for a second or two.
The platter will burn, a kobel or something. If you leave it on there, the bottom will turn black.
Okay, well we'll have to take a look. We'll take a look. We'll do a test on it, and we'll see. Okay, so what tonight I wanted to cover was the halachos of Bedikat Chametz, and as much of the halachos of Seder and Pesach and Yom Tov in general, maybe even Chol Hamoed. If we'll get to there, I think it's a little bit ambitious, but we'll try to cover as much as we can. Start, basically going chronologically through Yud Dalid, which is Erev Pesach, going through the night of Bedikat Chametz, and then the next morning, and then into the afternoon, evening, into the Seder. The things that come up this year because it's Shabbos and Yom Tov together, and that type of thing. So that's what I'd like to do, and just go through all the halachos. So in order to start, I want to just go back to the idea of Bedikat Chametz. So we actually spoke about this the very first year. What I'm going to say now is really a review of what we said then. I'll try to make it very quick. But we said that there's three mitzvos that we find in the Torah that revolve around chametz, right? Bal Yera'eh, Bal Yematzeh. You can't see chametz, you can't find chametz. These are both two los asehs in the Torah that have to do with the ownership of chametz. And then number 3 is the mitzvah aseh that we have of tashbisu, se'or mebatechem. You have to destroy any chametz from your home. That's mitzvah aseh, to destroy the chametz. Okay, so these are the 3 mitzvahs in the Torah, and obviously not eating chametz, right? That's the most fundamental. Now we said, in addition to this, Chazal instituted 2 mitzvos midrabanan, which is going to be the focus tonight. And that's one is the mitzvah of Bedikat Chametz, which is a specific mitzvah with its own bracha that takes place, at a specific time, and all the mitzvahs of Chazal, like lighting candles, Hanukkah and Megillah. There's a whole siman in Shulchan Aruch and about how to do the Bedika and all the halachas of the Bedika. So that's one mitzvah that they instituted, and the next mitzvah they instituted is a much quicker and easier mitzvah, which is the mitzvah of being mafkir, the mitzvah of bittul chametz, being mevatel. That's when we make this statement, which is written in Aramaic, but it's important, as we'll see, that you understand what you're saying. Kol chamira v'chamia de ikar b'reshusi, any leaven or bread that I have in my reshus, in my possession, should be hefker. Chazal made us do, make the chametz hefker as well. So now, why do we have these two mitzvahs? Why can't the person just go around and get rid of all their chametz and go into Pesach? So again, we explained this the first year when we spoke about cleaning for Pesach. Chazal were worried about two things. Number one, we're worried that maybe you're going to not find some chametz that's in your property, and you're going to go through Pesach owning chametz, and you'll be over Bal Yirai, Bal Yimatzeh. So therefore they instituted bittul, and you have to make all your chametz ownerless before Pesach, and that way you can't even by accident, inadvertently violate this aveira of owning chametz, because any chametz that you may have owned, one of these candies, let's say if it's made out of wheat, licorice that has flour in it, a piece of licorice that gets stuck somewhere, and I don't know that I own it, or let's say a whole baggie, so it's more than a kazayas, and that's the Isser D'Araisa. So then, when I mevatel it, I declare it hefker, I declare it ownerless, so then it's not mine any longer, and I can go through Pesach now, and I don't own any chametz. Okay, so then why the bedika? Why can't I just declare all of my chametz ownerless? Why did they make this whole demand that I have to go through my house and clean it up and do the bedika? So that's that other issue that we spoke about before we spoke about cleaning for Pesach, which is we're worried that maybe you're going to find something on Pesach and actually eat it. So that's what we said. The bedika, the mitzvah of the bedika, is not for crumbs. It's not for little bits of pasta that are dried up and that got caked onto the bottom of the chair. Nobody's going to eat that. That's actually batel already, like we mentioned, unless you have a kazayas in one place, like in a car where you have a ton of crumbs, or in a toy chest or something like that. But otherwise, we said crumbs you don't even have to do the bedika for. What's the bedika for? The bedika is to make sure that there's no actual chametz, no edible food that's around that I'm going to encounter over the course of Pesach and maybe inadvertently eat, or my kids will eat. They'll find a real Cheerio underneath the couch, or they'll find a bag of pretzels, like I told you I found one time on Yantif in a suitcase, in traveling suitcase. We went somewhere during Yantif, and we didn't do the bedika properly. The halach is you have to do the bedikas chametz in the suitcases, and I just obviously slipped my mind. And we found a box of those little pretzels. Those in America know what I'm talking about. Those little thin pretzel rods with a lot of salt on them. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So those are very tempting, right? Yeah, you come across that on Pesach. You haven't had chametz in days, and that's what happens. So the Chazal Institute, you have to do bedika also. You have to go do in this search and destroy mission, right? Go around and find all the chametz in your house. Okay, so what I want to do now is to walk us through these mitzvahs, the mitzvah of bedikas chametz, mitzvah of bir chametz, what the practical, how we go about doing it, and certain eitzes, certain things that we can do to make it easier on the mitzvah, the night of the actual bedika, in terms of setting ourselves up in advance. Okay, so now what we said is that the idea of bedikas chametz is an actual mitzvah, with all sorts of halachos and parameters, and like I said, a whole siman in Shulchan Aruch and Mishnah Brura and Poskim and Chuvas and all sorts of things. And the basic parameters of the mitzvah are as follows. Number one, it has to be done on the night before Pesach, right? On the or la'arba asar, which means like the evening of Yudalid, going into the day before Pesach. Number two, it has to be done l'or haner, right? That means that it has to be done with a candle. Most poskim say a flashlight is okay. We'll get to that when we speak about it. And number three, like we mentioned, the halacha is that it has to be that a person is going and looking in all the places, all the areas that they're going to have ownership of over Pesach, right? All those places that they may be over Pesach and encounter chametz, including, like we mentioned, the Shulchan Aruch says, including pockets, including bags and pockets and bags and all these things. All of these things, all these areas have to be checked. L'or haner, by candlelight, at night, the night before Pesach. Now,
specifically for a man, or if there's no man, is the mitzvah as well? The
mitzvah is on the household. It's a very good question. The mitzvah is on the household. It's not a man's mitzvah. No, even if the man would not be available, then a woman would be mechuyev to do it with a bracha. This is not but the mitzvah is on the household. So usually, the man will be the one to do as we'll see, that there's an Indian to put out chametz, so that somebody's going to do that. I guess you could split it up. You put out 5, he puts out 5. You check part, he checks part. But as long as it's being done in the household, it's done. But it's on. I teach the seminary girls. We have a whole meeting tomorrow about all the halachos leading up to Pesach. And we tell them, and anybody who's in a dorm room who's watching this, or so not living at home, or you're a boarder in somebody else's home, but you have an area that's yours, even if it's a closet and even if you don't have rental ownership of it, like they say in a dormitory room, most Muslims say to do it with a bracha, even though you don't have ownership over that, over that space. But Lamaisa, it's yours. These are your places. These are your, this is your stuff, your own. Lamaisa, it's a question about making a bracha or not in a dorm. But everybody has to do b'dika on anything that they have. And even a person who's living in their parents' house and their parents are doing a b'dika and they're taking their room, but their clothing they have to check, and their handbag and their knapsack and anything that they're going to take with them, they have to check.
That night, like a lot of times, I'm the one who hides the pieces, and the kids and the apple go around looking for it. But so at the time of the bracha, does the wife also have to do the looking?
Yes, definitely. Well, no, you don't have to do the looking, but you have to be there for the bracha because the mitzvah is for you also. No, you don't have to take part in the mitzvah. No, because your husband's like doing it for you. He's like doing it on behalf of you also. Like we'll see. The halacha is, I tell us, especially people who are in dorm rooms, if you can't be there the night of the bedika, so the halacha is you could do it earlier. You have to do it at night, right? You could do it earlier. You could do it like the night before you leave, or whenever it's going to be. But it's better to set up a shliach so that the mitzvah is done in the proper time than for you to do it early and do it yourself. But the idea is it's a mitzvah that can be done through a shliach. So when your husband, a messenger, somebody doing it on your behalf. So when your husband is doing it, so that's your mitzvah as well. So you have to be there for the bracha. Okay. So now the idea is like this. So to do this all that night. That would take a very, very long time, right? If you think about doing it properly, like doing Bedikat Chametz properly, which means taking a candle or a flashlight, starting at the nighttime, and physically going and checking every single area behind every zone, every area where Chametz could have gotten, like these shelves over here, maybe not the high shelves, but looking at everything and picking up everything and looking everywhere. It takes a long time, going through all the pockets, like we said. Okay, so a few things just to make clear about how to limit the amount of time that we're going to need to spend doing this at night. So number one is, like we said, any area that you're selling for Pesach, you do not need to do the Bedikat on, right? The Bedikat is only for places that you are going to own on Pesach. So what that means is if a person is going away for Yantif completely, they're going away to a hotel, or they're going to Eretz Yisrael, or they're going to family, right? They're traveling and they're going to be leaving completely. So al pi halacha, they don't need to do a bedika at all on their home. They could include their entire home in their sales contract with the rabbi. There's the Rav will have a way to include that into the contract. And you sell your whole house, and therefore you don't have any mitzvah of bedika on your home. You have to do your car and your clothing and stuff like that, and your suitcases, that you're bringing with you. But your house, you could leave just as is. And like we said, this the first year, you wouldn't have to do any Pesach cleaning at all that year. You could nothing. You're selling everything. You're selling your whole house. You're locking it for Yantif, giving the key to a guy. They're going to be partying in your house, through Pesach. They're not going to be there. They can have all their chametz in the world. Right? It's their house. You're not there. Now, however, if you're going to do this, which is fine to do, if you're going to do this, however, the Mishnah says it's preferable to leave one area of the house that's excluded from the rental contract, so you could do the mitzvah. It's a special mitzvah. We only get to do it once a year. The mitzvah of Bedikas Chametz. A special bracha that we make on it. So Mishnah says, why would a person want to get putter from this mitzvah? So even if you're renting your house out to the guy, this is what I tell people, even if a person is leaving their apartment, they're leaving their house, they're going away for Yantif, they're leaving everything behind, they should specifically exclude a small area. Now, don't do the kitchen, obviously, don't do, but take a bedroom, take an area that's a living area in the house, and exclude that from the sales contract, and then do the bedika there, so that you're at least mekayim the mitzvah of bedika, and you're able to do this special mitzvah that we only have a chance to do once a year. That's what the Mishnah Berurah's eitzah is. But any area that you're selling, so you do not need to do the bedika over there. Yeah.
If you clean thoroughly before.
Oh, so I'll get to that in 1 second. Very good. We'll get to that in 1 second.
Let's say you're going away.
Yes.
So you wouldn't lose the mitzvah because you'd still be doing it on your suitcases and.
Okay, very good. But you only make a bracha. On Bedikas Chametz on a home, on a place that you live in. You don't make a bracha just on your car and on your pockets and on your suitcases. If you're going away for Yantif, especially if you're leaving in the morning erev Yantif, so you're going to be home the actual night of the Bedika, when you can actually make the bracha. So then it's definitely preferable to exclude one area, so you can make the bracha and do it right, and then use that bracha to check your car and your clothing and everything else. But if you're actually traveling for a Yantif and you're away, and you don't have anything, what they give an eitzah what you should do, which again, I'm not telling a person that you have to do this, especially people, single people who are watching this and traveling around and going places, but what they say as an idea to make sure to be mekayim the mitzvah properly. If you're going somewhere for Yantif and you're staying in a room, let's say seminary girl staying somewhere for Yantif, they're staying in a room, they say you should ask the host if you could rent the room from them, he'll say, here's 10 shekel, or here's $5. Let me rent the room from you, and then do the bedika with the bracha, right? Then it's your. It's like in a hotel room also. In a hotel room, you make a bedika with the bracha, right? With the bracha, it's your place that you're paying for, so that then you make it with the bracha. But in your home, you only do it if it's right. Like I said, if you have a place, so that's if you can, you should exclude a piece from the sale. Okay, but again, the same thing. Sorry, go ahead.
So my married kids who are going to be either between us or their in-laws for Yom Tov, and they don't live so far. I remember hearing years ago, you have to be far away from where you live. But no,
I never heard that. I never heard you had to be far away. It just you can't go in there. I'm saying it's you can't really go in unless you have to.
They're not going to go back in their apartments for the Chag at all.
Right.
They do Bedikat on wherever they don't have to clean Bichlal, you're saying?
No, they don't have to do anything. They're going to sell everything. They're just going to sell it off.
They do Bedikat that night on
exclude one area. They have to tell the Rav in the thing. I'm excluding the foyer and the front stairway area, and do a bedika on that area, and then they do it with a bracha, and then that's it. And then they go. And they don't have to clean. They don't have to do anything else. They have to they're selling it. They're selling it all to a guy. If they want to, they can. If they want to clean the whole house and get rid of all the chametz and not sell it, and that way they can go there and go back in there and not have to worry about it. It's complicated. If a person sells their house to a guy. And then needs to go there during Yom Tov. I wouldn't say EF different Rabbanim. You have to ask the Rav that you sold the Chametz through. Different Rabbanim I've spoken to over the years who had this situation that come up have had different dispositions towards it. Some were like, okay, yeah, it's fine, and others would like, I remember a particular of in Pesach that I sold the Chametz, and he was like, only under extreme circumstances, if it's absolutely necessary, so you don't have medicine behind or something like that. But he said otherwise, it's you wanted people to take it seriously. It's not just like a joke that you're selling it.
And I think that's why, because if you can come back, so then
you're not taking it seriously. That's right. That makes a lot of sense to me. That that it can't just be that you could freely go over there. You know what I mean? I think they do include some sort of a clause. They include a clause in the contract. That drisas regel does not that a person going in there without permission doesn't undo the contract, because otherwise that would be dangerous.
Are you selling the whole house, or you're selling the chametz in your house?
No. You're selling the property. I'm making this very important. Selling the chametz. Everyone sells the chametz in their house,
when
but
you sell the pantry. Where you
let me make this clear. I want to clarify this. No. I want to make this very clear. Okay, in the contract that they have. So there's two things. Well, one thing is all the chametz that I have and all the chametz products and whatever, that's all sold. That everybody does. That everyone does. Some people will sell actual chametz. Some people won't sell actual chametz. But that everybody makes that contract. That's in halacha. Whatever the foods are, the things are, exactly. Okay. Well, what we're talking about here is there's a separate clause that you put into the contract that says one of two things: either the following address. Or the following areas at the address, which is what we would do if we're staying home for Yom Tov, are also included in the sale, meaning not just the things that are there, but that this break front is being sold, like we spoke about the first week. So you would cover over the break front, and now you don't need to clean it. You don't need to think about it before Pesach, because it's not yours on Pesach. You just can't go in there on Yom Tov.
You have to be specific?
I'm sorry?
You have to be specific.
It has to be like marked off or something that everyone knows that this is it. So again, it's a different Rabbanim do different contracts. Different Rabbanim have different contracts. I'll tell you, there's two extreme contracts that have been seen. There's some Rabbanim that require everything to be exactly mefurat, everything spelled out. For many years, when we first moved to Israel, I sold my chametz with Rav Bloy, one of the big tzaddikim, and he was the head of the Beis Din, the head of the Beis Din of the Ed Haredis. And one of the biggest experts in Choshen Mishpat in the world, a massive set of svarim on Choshen Mishpat and monetary law. This thing is not alive anymore; it just passed away a few years ago. And so for years I would sell chametz in his house just because it was like an opportunity to see him and interact with him, a little bit in his home. And it was such like a process. You just walked in here, pick up this thing, picked it up, put your name down. Okay, good, Shalom Al Yisrael. Sometimes he wasn't there; his wife was there, and she would just tell me, "Oh, here, this is what you do." And I was like, "Yeah. I was like, "Oh, this is for all the seminary." Yeah, like that, and that was it. Shalom Al Yisrael. Other Rabbanim make you list everything. So I figured. Everything like that. But anyway, as far as you in the home are concerned, for sure, you have to mark off that area. It's not yours, it's sold. Your kids have to know they can't go in there. It's everything. But I just want to make this clear. But so that means if you have a basement, right? You have a basement, or you have a what's it called, a baidim over here, like a storage area. You have all these areas that you don't want to have to go in there and check all your suitcases that you used with and all these things. You don't want to, or you have a whole room and you want to put all your chametz stick stuff there. So you can include that whole area in the sales contract, and then you do not need to clean. You do not need to do a bedika there. What you do need to do is mark it off and say this is sold for Pesach. The last thing where I would suggest doing this is for clothing that you're not going to be using over Yantif. Like I said, clothing that you're going to be using over Yantif, Al Pi Din, you really have to be checking the pockets and seeing. I asked a few Rabbanim, they said, you really have to check. Even if you never put food there, but kids do, you have to check the pockets and see. If it's like a fancy wedding gown, I don't know, they don't have pockets on a wedding gown, I don't know, whatever. But but if anything where food could have possibly gotten in or candies, you have to check those pockets. And if you don't want to have to check all of the clothing, so you could take a section of your closet and say, put a sheet over it and say machur lagai, and this section is sold, and then that area you don't have to check, you don't have to do a bedika, but that clothing is not for use.
If you left a pair of shoes in there or something,
you shouldn't take it out. Yeah, you shouldn't take it out. Yeah, you shouldn't.
So if you have a break front.
Yes.
And you don't want to clean.
There's
no chametz in there anyways, right? Because everything gets put away clean.
Right.
But still, because we're neurotic, we go through everything every year, right? But we don't necessarily have to. So and we cover it, and we don't use it for Pesach ever usually.
So just sell it, yeah.
I don't have to clean it.
Sell it, yeah, but you should sell it. You should sell it in the contract.
I'm selling.
Yes, that's correct.
What about bookshelves?
So we spoke about this when we spoke about just the cleaning. So as far books are an issue, not because
haven't been taken out.
No, so for sure. Books that then you have to touch it. A book that's never been taken out. If you don't bring books to the table during Pesach, you don't have to. The issue with books is that books that are around food during the year,
so
there are crumbs. So okay, yeah. So then there's nothing. You have to just make sure that there's no food actually hidden among the books. But you don't have to go through all the books and blow out the thing. You don't have to do that.
People do with a brush.
That's not necessary. Again, I want to make this just clear, just to make this clarification. You're not going to be over Bal Yira'eh and Bal Yimatzeh for Chametz in your books, right? There are going to be 84 crumbs distributed among these books. It's not going to be Bal Yira'eh, Bal Yimatzeh. What we do have to be worried about is that we don't eat any of those crumbs on Pesach, because even one crumb is aser, right? So if that book is going to go anywhere near anything that may get eaten, I have to make sure that it's chametz free before Pesach. But if I have a no books at the table rule, and under no circumstances are books going to come to my table over Pesach, so then there's no halacha of doing any bedika, because there's nothing I'm checking for over there by the books. Okay, so that you definitely don't need to go through every book. I did this growing up also. I used to go through every book on the shelf, every encyclopedia, going through everything, every board game that hadn't been used for years. No, that's not necessary to do at all. And certainly if you have an area and you don't want to, let's say you do have a ton of children's books, right? We have a lot of children's books at home. The children's books, so we do sell a lot of them. We do sell them because we don't want to have to clean them and go through all of them. Same thing with children's toys.
All the toys.
So we take out toys. What we do for toys is the toys that we want the kids to be able to use over Yantif, we take out and clean well. Like we spoke about that the first thing. Any other toys we sell, like we do, put them in the closet with a toy closet and seal it off. Say sold.
That'll be fun.
Put it away. Yes, put it away and sell it. That's fine. Take a room, take a closet. That's what we do. For Pesach, we take out like a number of toys and whatever, certain things that they.
Pesach is so easy. It used to be so hard.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so the story is like, so now that we understand what areas we have to do, the last way that so now we understand those are the areas that need the bedika. But now the other question that was raised is like, what about doing the bedika in advance? In other words, like, what do you mean? I already cleaned that kid's room, and I already went through his closet. Do I have to go back again and do the bedika again? So the answer is yes, you really have to, because the halacha of the bedika is, like I said, it's halachos of laor haner. And with kavana to be doing it l'shem the bedika. What the poskim say you can do though is the following, and this I even asked another Rav this year: is this really necessary? He said, yeah, this is what we do. You know what I mean? If you want to minimize the bedika, let's say you cleaned Chaim's room this morning, right? So Chaim's room is clean. You went through his clothing, you went through it, you're sure. So that night, tonight, if you did it today during the day, or someone's vacuuming over there, whatever. Yeah. So tonight, so go take a flashlight, and go through the areas that you cleaned. Right now, when you know where everything is, without a bracha, but you know where everything is. You just organize everything. Everything's here. Chametz is not coming back into this room at all. So go that night, take a flashlight, and you do your best. Obviously, you do your best. Take a flashlight and go through those areas. You don't have to now go through super thoroughly because you're confident that the area is clean, but it must be checked again with three criteria: one at night, or in the dark, if it's a dark area, but it has to be dark. It can't be coming in from light from the outside, preferably.
Wait, what?
Yeah, okay. There's a lot to this because the poskim say that the light of it has to be lower haner. I was told today, I didn't hear this from him directly, but somebody who I trust very much in these areas, but he said Rav Asher Weiss holds dafka, a candle, and it can't even be a flashlight, which I never heard before in my life. I never heard that before. But I heard it only that they say al pi Kabbalah there's an Indian to use a candle because
Definitely use both, right?
So what I've done every year is I start on a candle, I make the bracha and I start doing it on a candle. I do look around a little bit, but then it's too dangerous with the kids and everything and the wax and this. I switched to a candle. So again, I didn't hear this from him, but I'll tell you. Growing up, one time we had a fire. One time we had a real fire. Growing up in the bathroom, somebody was looking like this, and they lit the drapes in the bathroom. And Baruch Hashem, it didn't spread to the room or anything, but it was within a few seconds a huge blaze on the things. We splashed water, and it was in the bathroom, Baruch Hashem, and everything was fine. But you have to be very, very careful if you're using fire, especially.
Be like a lantern if it's a fire, we know the wick isn't, the flame is inside. Whatever uses that, but you think.
It could be. I mean, it could be. It has to be a single. It can't be a vuka. It can't be a torch. It has to be a single, a single bulb. But that's no candle is no good because that's like a torch. It shouldn't be a torch. So all these things again. There's all things in Yanim al pi Kabbalah about this. But the al pi nigla, the idea behind it is that Chazal understood like this that. Only a good fine light is good for seeing in all the cracks and all the nooks and crannies and all those places. And if you've got a lot of outside light, which is true, if you're trying to see through two cracks, so if it's dark everywhere else and I shine the light in there, I could see. But if it's light everywhere else, casting a shadow there, and then I try to light it up, I need a much, much stronger light, and you don't see well. So basically, Chazal understood that you see better with light against darkness than light against ambient light. And ambient, however you say that, and therefore it has to be done at night or in a dark room that's closed off with a candle.
Is a tea light considered a candle?
A tea light is a candle, sure. Yeah. It's harder to hold. It's hard. You have to put it in a tinfoil holder or something. Yeah, a holder or something. Right. That you can do. Yeah, tea light is a candle. But so that's the idea. So if you want to minimize the amount of actual time, and then that area is baduk. That room is done. It's closed. It's finished. It's the bedikat is done. There's no more chametz there, and you don't have to go back to that room at night. However, if you do this, you have to make sure that you also you leave areas for the night to do the bracha on. You don't want to do the whole bedikat in advance without making brachas. Okay. So anyway, that's the story. So what happens is like this: the actual process of the bedikat. Let's just go through this quickly. So the halacha has to be at nighttime. We do it, at Teisah Kochavim when nightfall comes, and like many halachos that we have throughout the year, like halachas Ner Chanukah, and Dalit Kosas and all different things. So you're not allowed to eat or get involved in any activity or go to sleep. Men are not allowed to learn for a half an hour from before that time because we have the mitzvah of the Bedikat to do. Usually the way it works is the men go to davening, and when the men are at shul, the women are at home setting up the chametz around the house and stuff. That's what happens. So that's the minhag. The minhag is, the Ramah brings us down, that the minhag is to put out 10 pieces of bread. And the idea behind this is that, hopefully by this point in time, you've done, your house is clean and checked, and he's not actually going to find any chametz. So we don't want it to be like a bracha levatala, that he's making this bracha to find chametz and he doesn't end up finding anything. So we put out 10 pieces of bread. There's none in why 10, not 6, not 7, whatever. But we put out 10 pieces of bread. And that's the minhag. So he comes home, he makes the bracha. Our whole family should be around because this is everybody's mitzvah. Again, if everybody has this mitzvah to do. It's just your husband is and kids, whatever, are doing it on your behalf. Your kids, if they're over bar mitzvah, bas mitzvah, and makes the bracha. Now the bracha that we make is al biur chametz, right? It's the bracha to Hashem Elokeinu melech haMashiach Chametz al biur chametz. It's one of only a handful of brachos. I don't remember how many. It's maybe 7 brachos or something like that. They only make one time a year. There's a handful of brachos. The Hadlik Ner Shel Yom Kippur, and al biur chametz, and the bracha of Nachem in Mincha on Tisha B'Av. There's a number of brachos that you only make one time. Be'berchas Ilanos, a few brachos you only make one time a year. So one of those is the bracha al biur chametz. So why is it al biur and not bedika? The idea is because since the mitzvah in the Torah is the biur, the real mitzvah in the Torah, which we're going to get to, is when you burn the chametz the next morning, you actually are destroying it. And so Chazal instituted the bedika as the beginning of the biur process, right? The mitzvah of the bedika is not an end to itself. It's a means to get to the point of destroying all of my chametz. So we make the bracha on the bedika al biur chametz. That's the idea. Okay, so you make the bracha. We search for the chametz in all the rooms that were not done previously. The halach is it is a mitzvah. You're not supposed to talk about anything other than the bedika. If possible. It's whatever, depending on how many kids you have and what their age distribution is, how realistic that is or not. but you do your best, to try to keep the tone and the focus on the mitzvah until it's done.
You can say, did you check over there?
Yeah. Any talking about the mitzvah itself is fine, but the point is not supposed to be, talking about extraneous things that are distracting you and being hefsek on the mitzvah. The bracha works for all the different areas that you go to, which include, again, like we spoke the first week about, but like, your office and your home office and your car and a garage if you have one, and all of these areas of your house, machsan, any of these areas, again, that you're not selling, that you're keeping for Pesach. Some people will sell their machsan for Pesach because they don't want to go, have to deal with all this.
You don't go out to your car at that time.
Yeah, sure I do. Every year, go out with a flashlight and go and check the car. Yeah, check it again with a flashlight. Yes, 100%. Also, the office, you do it where, if you're never in your office at night, you don't have to go there specifically. If you can, you could. You know what I mean?
No, but your office is a drive away.
Yeah, so then, you should do it the last time that you're there. The last time that you're there before you go, you should do a Bedikat around the area there.
So what I always did with my husband was we put the 10 pieces of bread just in one room. Like, I never knew that you're supposed to do this all over your house. And I would always forget, even though we're in one room.
Keep a list.
Always
you
forget
have to keep
where
a list.
I'm
Google
and we'd
Keep.
be like
You have to
having
keep
9 pieces of bread and going crazy trying
send
to
yourself
find
an
the
email.
write
Keep
them
it on your
down
phone now. You have no excuse anymore.
I
Take a
can write a
picture.
list?
WhatsApp yourself a very place where you put the bread.
Oh my gosh.
Because there's no
I write
excuses
it
anymore.
because
Yeah, you have to keep a
we had
list.
trouble finding-
Yeah, we
I
had
also
a-
heard about the size that, because I used to use large pieces,
Oh, really?
and then I was told not to because
And if you
You
don't
don't
find
want
it, it's not so bad.
yeah, but I keep it.
So people
keep a
say
big
we
list.
wrap them up in tinfoil. First of all, you shouldn't use something that makes crumbs. Suppose I'm saying you shouldn't use something that makes crumbs. Obviously, then you're leaving crumbs around. I'm sorry.
But that doesn't burn.
No, well, first of all,
Open it up.
yeah, I open it up the next day. We open it up
I wrap
into
it
the
in
thing.
napkins.
Yeah, we wrap it up in something, and that way
Wow.
but we just wrap a little piece of tinfoil and just like pop open the tinfoil into a little baggie, and then that's it.
What if you have like war supplies, like food that you keep in, like
Your mama.
we
Okay,
have it.
everybody, the good ones, if there's ever anything.
We have like keter drawers in the miklat.
To sell, you have to sell it.
So-
I mean, if there's chametz in there, you have to sell it for sure.
So we should for sure. But I'm saying, do we need to get rid of it, like throw
No,
it
you
out?
sell it. I mean, if you sell chametz, then sell it. That's fine. Most people
Are
sell
you going to
chametz.
go through the selling chametz and not selling chametz?
I'm sorry, really, to go through this different. Look, most poskim are okay with it, and I don't know of any rabbanim personally. I don't know of any rabbanim that refuse to sell chametz. You know what I mean? Which means, as far as I know, it's okay. I think the idea is the only one I know. I think of Soloveitchik. I think Yeshiva Soloveitchik. I think he was very against it. Because he felt that actual chametz is mamash an isur d'oraisa, and the question if you could really be somech on the sale on that level. But the minhag in Klal Yisrael is certainly to rely on it, and it's I don't know of anybody that says it's flat out usher to sell chametz. So it's like a chumrah that some people do, some people don't do, but it's not. I don't think it's anything like anything more than that. Okay, so we're holding in the middle of the Bedikat. You go around, you find all your pieces of chametz. It should be spread around, the house, and not just in one room. In other words, it should be in every area that person is checking around as much as you can. You just moved in recently, so if you have places in your house that you're like sure are clean and are chametz free, and then you don't, you can just make sure the chametz doesn't go there, and then you're okay. You know what I mean? If you have places. Last year we moved Erev Pesach, and it was like a crazy thing. We moved like the day before the Bedikat last year. So one of my friends had a great idea. He said that before we move in, I should run around the night before and do the Bedikat in most of the rooms. Just do it like this before we move anything in. Keep all of our stuff in the boxes, sell all the boxes, and that's exactly what we did last year. It was a crazy mindset, whatever. Long story. Okay, very. Yeah. Okay. Baruch Hashem, it worked, and here we are. So, okay. So now, after the Bedikat is done, after the 10 pieces are found, and a person is checked, and I'll tell you, many years we actually find things. It's usually in the form of product, stuff that we had, or a certain kid's medicine or chewable vitamins or something. But there are many years that we'll find stuff that we really should have put away, beforehand. Like I said, you have to check your refrigerator and your freezer, all these places. I know people who have found challah in their freezer on Pesach also. Frozen challah dough that they forgot that was there, and it was wrapped up in a thing in the back, and they thought it was chicken for Pesach, and then they left it in there, and they took it out on Pesach, their chicken. Can you imagine? Okay, honey, the chicken is thawing on the counter, and he opens it up. It's a rising challah dough. That actually happened. You have to check, like we said, your car trunk. People don't realize that there's food in your car trunk. Whenever you go shopping, you're putting your groceries. I know somebody else who felt, it was actually the same person who had a box of Cheerios in the car trunk also in a different year, and a box of Cheerios. And so these things happen. Like I said, suitcases, handbags, knapsacks. If you're going on tiyulim with your kids and you have tiyulim bags, all of these things, a cooler. All these things that you don't necessarily think about until Chol Hamoed and you're going on that tiyul. But you're like, oh man, we have a cooler, so you have to check the cooler. Yeah, wash it out. You can wash it out. Yeah, wash it out very well. Yeah, wash it out with with a soapy spritz or something like that. But unless it's like got gouges in it and you see stuff caked in there, but that's that's it.
So let's say my daughter should have 10 purses. But so if they've cleaned it before, when we're doing Bedikat Chametz, if we say did you would you go through each one, or you say did you clean this, or has it been clean?
If anything they're going to use for Yontif, you should clean it. If they could pick 4 that they're going to use over Chag. I know, but you have to do Bedikat there, though. Right. It's really, like I said, I really wanted to ask this to advice, but he's not around. But I spoke about it with 2 different rabbis. They both said that it has to be done the shem Bedika, with the flesh. It has to be done that way. So
everything.
But again, what we do is we put away most of those things. If your daughter has 10 handbags, so let her try to figure out 6 maybe for Yom Tif, and the other 4 at least put away, and something like that. And that way you just don't need to deal with them. Same thing with clothing, the
day. The day they clean their room that night, they could go.
Yes, they can go with a flashlight and go do around and do it with the Shem Bedika. But a person over bar mitzvah only, or bar mitzvah, over bar mitzvah. Okay, right. So with that many handbags, that's already bad. Okay, so now after the Bedika, after you find all the pieces of bread and everybody's all together, so the group gathers together, the family, everybody should be here together. Again, definitely you, your husband, anybody over bar mitzvah. And now we are doing the first phase. This is phase 1 of the mitzvah of the bittul. Okay, this is phase 1. Now, the phase 1, because there's going to be another phase, which is tomorrow. But what we're doing right now, let's picture where we are. It's the night before Pesach. We just we just finished the Bedikat. We have all the chametz over here. Yeah, but we also know that there's maybe a bag of chametz that's sitting in the hallway, that leads to outside, or on the basement steps, or somewhere else. There's a bag of chametz that we're still going to be eating for breakfast tomorrow sometimes, or the chametz that we're going to be burning tomorrow, right? A couple of half-filled boxes of Cheerio, whatever it is. There's some chametz that I still am aware of that is in my house, right? The chametz I just found in the Bedikat, etc. So the phrase that we say the first night, we say like this: Kol chamir v'chamiyah de ikabrishusi, any leaven or bread that I have, the lo yadana u the lo matzana, that I didn't find, that I don't know about, it should be hefker. In other words, I am acknowledging at this phase that there is still chametz in my possession, right? There's this bag and there's the bread I'm eating for tomorrow morning or whatever it is. There is still chametz around, so I'm not making that hefker, and I don't want to make that hefker yet because I want to do the mitzvah of burning that chametz, right? I want to have that chametz available to me tomorrow morning to actually throw it into the fire, so I don't want to make that hefker. I want that to be my chametz. We'll see after we burn the chametz the next morning when the family goes together and burns the chametz, or we'll get to there. So then you say kol chamir v'chamiyah the ikar b'shusi the yadana or the lo yadana the chazise or the lo chazise, whether I knew it, I didn't see it, I did see it. Everything I want to be hefker. But at this phase, this is what we do. Okay. After that kol chamir v'chamiyah, we're done for the night. There's no more mitzvahs for the night. You just have to make sure that your chametz is in a secure location. It doesn't get confused. Get cooking, right? Or hopefully you're already into the cooking. Kashing hopefully is well underway, and you're good for the night. Now, the next morning, let's just go through the basics. Like I said, we'll just go ahead. Yeah, please.
Can you not start cooking until you've done Bedikat Chametz?
No, you can. You shouldn't get involved in for that half hour before you start the Bedikat. You shouldn't.
But if your kitchen is done a week before, you could cook.
Of course, yeah, sure.
As long freeze?
As you're. Sure, yeah. You just have to make sure your freezer is clean and cleared out and totally done. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, I think most people do that. There are many years, depending on how it works out. This year it doesn't work out because Shabbos HaGadol is a full week before this year and last year. But very often there's a Shabbos, a few days before Pesach, and people will already be in Pesach for that Shabbos in their kitchen, and they'll just be eating chametz outside and stuff like that. So that's that's the okay. Now the next morning, so there's a number of things that have to happen. So the next morning there are 2 times that a person has to have in mind. There's one time by which chametz has to stop being eaten, which is 3 hours into the day, and then there's the time by which chametz no longer can be benefited from, which is 4 hours into the day. You have to check your local luach and see what the zmanim are. I don't remember what it is. I should have looked it up before I came here. In Yerushalayim, it's something like 9:45 and 10 something. I don't remember exactly what it is, but basically by 9:30, 10 in the morning, we're done with chametz. What we just have to make sure that we do before then, obviously, other than finishing eating and rinsing out our mouth from any chametz and putting away our toothbrushes from Pesach and remembering all those last minute things that we have to remembering to seal off all the areas that have to be sealed off. But now we still have to do a mitzvah d'oraisa. We have the mitzvah bin Torah again. Only once a year we get to do a mitzvah d'oraisa of tashbisu, of going and burning our chametz. Usually it would be baltashkes to take food and to ruin it. We tell our kids all the time not to do that. Yeah, but now we have a mitzvah. All the kids love it, right? Here in Yerushalayim, you have massive fires tended by 9 and 10-year-olds. I don't know if you have that over here, remote bet, or but you have these little kids running these fires, and but it's mitzvah d'oraisa. It's a mitzvah to go ahead and take your chametz and burn it, and it's something that everybody in the family should do. Everybody in the family should do. You should go and do it, not just your husband. You should go to one of those fires and take.
Can't you have your husband just be your shaliach?
You could, but it's a mitzvah that you can get to do. You know what I mean? You can, yeah. If you don't want to leave, you can't.
Everybody has to actually throw it in.
I give a kazayas of bread to every one of my family members to go and do the mitzvah, to throw in. They should do the mitzvah. I'm sorry? You could burn in your garden. I'll say the only issue with burning in your garden is you really have to make sure that it's totally burned and finished and done
one of those,
by the time.
Throwaway barbecues.
As long as you're making sure that it's totally burnt and done and completely consumed in enough time. Depending on how much you have to burn and how big the fire is, it won't necessarily be that way. I mean, I know some people do it in a fireplace, but they build like a real big fire and then they put in a little bit of chametz and it gets completely consumed. But that I would it's you have to be very careful if even a smoldering piece of chametz, but if it's like in there chametz somewhere, you know what I mean. If
But
it
then
didn't
you're
burn
throwing
through.
out the barbecue after.
So then fine, so throw it up. If it's out of your property by the time that it's.
So chametz that you have in the morning, it's not burnable. You don't want to bother with burning it. You just throw it in the dumpster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you should burn it. It's mitzvah to burn it. Why throw it out when you can burn it? Yeah, you should burn it. Why throw it out? Burn the chametz. No, they even say you shouldn't sprinkle lighter fluid on it because then you're like ruining it already with the lighter fluid and you're not burning it. And the real mitzvah is to do with burning. But
the fires that they have here, they're strong enough.
Yeah. They have big fires going, and you throw it in. You just make sure you throw it in. And you should again if you send your husband and your husband is doing like on your behalf, that's fine. But it just you have to realize it's your mitzvah to get rid of your chametz and to burn it. It's not just like your house or your husband's. Every member of Klal Yisrael has his mitzvah, so you should be mekayim it. And definitely you have to say the kol chamir v'chamiyah. That for sure is not your husband's thing. That you have to say for yourself because. You might have that candy bar in your in your pocket and
all
this.
of my kids are adults. I mean, who they've always had their father, like, they would go, I don't think each kid said.
The kol chamiyah. If they're present for the saying of it, that's
right.
okay. No, that's okay. Then they're all saying, what's like your shomei kona, you're all hearing it together, like Kiddush and all these other things. But they have to realize that they're making a statement, not that their father is saying some Aramaic, incantation, that they're making a statement of, I am hereby, any chametz that I have, and even if some chametz is, I have an autographed, who knows what, loaf of bread. I don't know. No, I don't know why they're saying this because there's shadows in the post about this. There was apparently a thing of like micro writing, and there was a person who had his whole yichus written out on a grain of wheat, and so for Pesach he took his grain of wheat and he went to some public place. And he found like a crack in a wall, where he thought it would be safe for Pesach, and he hid it there for Pesach, and then made it hefker, right? And then after Pesach he went and went back to get it. So there's a separate halacha on Pesach of rotze b'kiyumo. Not only are you not allowed to, own Pesach or own chametz or eat chametz, but you're not even allowed to have a vested interest in the existence of chametz on Pesach. You're not allowed to, even not owning chametz, you're not allowed to have a vested interest in somebody else's chametz. For example, a nurse I once saw a shayla in the post about this, a nurse in a hospital who's carrying around a tray of food for non-Jewish people, right? And giving out tray food to non-Jewish people. But if there's chametz in those trays, there's a problem there because it's her job to make sure that this chametz is safe. And that's aser. It's aser to have a vested interest. I even one time I asked Rav Scheinberg about this. Let's say a person, I said if a person is on an airplane, let's say I'm in the aisle seat of an airplane, and the stewardess asks me on Pesach to pass I remember what he said. So if I pass a tray of chametz to the person next to me, so I said, if I would drop the tray, I would be embarrassed, right? Yeah. Because so I don't know if he told me this as a joke because it was like a silly question, or if he meant to see. I don't know. But he said, if there's turbulence, it's mutter. That's what he said to me. He said, because then, if it would drop, you wouldn't be embarrassed that it dropped. So that's what he said to me. I don't know if he meant it or not. I don't know. But that's halacha. The halacha is so they talk about this in the Achronim that this person was not allowed to do that. He was not allowed to keep his seed that way. And they talk about this. Same thing when it comes to selling chametz, that you can't sell chametz, something like that. That's very, very precious to you that you bedafka want back afterwards. Like they talk about bakers. bakers who sell starter dough. You know what I mean? They have like their starter doughs, and they need those doughs for Motzei Yontif to be available right away. Otherwise, it's going to take them another day before they can make certain products because they need to get the starter dough going. So there's a real shaila there of Rotze B'Kiyumo because they're like invested in that guy's chametz. I'll give you one more shaila about this, and we'll move on. Let's say you sell your freezer, right, with all of your chametz product and your meat and all your stuff, and on Yontif during Chol Moed, your freezer breaks, right, with the guy's chametz in there, right? So the shaila about having something fixed on Yontif. Or on Chol Moed, having a person come to fix things on Chol Moed is not so simple, depending on the circumstance. It has to be a davra aved, but here it's not your stuff; it's really the non-Jewish person's stuff. And if you're going to fix your freezer, you're really showing that you have a vested interest in the chametz that's in there. So I don't remember what the interest is, unfortunately. As I'm saying it, I thought I remembered.
Their stuff, are you allowed to let it rot?
Well, so that's a separate shaila about the ruining of the guy's food. That was a separate question in terms of like how, it's not hashavas aveda. Because you can't return to it's not a matter of returning to only to a Jewish person, but as far as do you have a responsibility to see to it that their food is not rotting, that you sold them? Okay, I'm not sure. It's interesting.
How about expensive alcohols? When people sell
so it's the
big
same thing.
bottles
They
of
had
scotch
alcohol companies that in the times of Chassam Sofer there was a whole shaila about this. There was there was a brewery that was sold to a guy, and the guy didn't want to sell it back afterwards, and it ended up being a whole big shaila in the town. But they talk about this by Rotze B'Kiyumo, by a very, very expensive scotch and this. But there they say, look, if he'd be willing to pay me for it or to replace it, it's not this scotch that I care about. It's 80-year-old scotch that I care about. If you get me another bottle of 80-year-old scotch, then I don't mind. Rav Moshe Feinstein has a tshuva about this, about a person in prison. Is he allowed to trade his food for non-chametz food? If a person, they get issued food in prison and it's chametz food, is he allowed to let somebody else take that food? Not that he certainly can't take it and give it to somebody because then he's owning it, that's for sure, Asr. But is he allowed to let somebody else take his portion and in order to get favors or something like that? And Rosh held it was mutter because it was not called Rotze B'Kiyumo yet. Because the government is required to provide this food for the people. Okay, anyway, that's the idea. So it's very.
But the wheat grain isn't chametz. No,
yeah, but if it ever came in contact with water, so then it is. In other words, even a wheat grain, once it contacts water, so then we assume that 18 minutes later that there's some sort of chimut, some sort of thing. Flour in a bag is not chametz, except that they don't they. No, to be but you're over the isser even on a chatzi shir, even on less than an amount, even one shirio. To be over the full isser. In general, even isser, usually the amount is a kazayis. It has to be a full kazayis to be over an isser. But there's a concept of chatzi shir aser min Torah that even a portion, you can't cook even a small amount on Shabbos, even though a person wouldn't be chayiv misa or wouldn't be chayiv on Shabbos for cooking a half an egg or a quarter of an egg or something like that, but it's still Asr Min Torah to do. You know what I mean? It's still eating on Yom Kippur, eating a tiny amount is also it's the same thing over here. Okay, now after we do that, so everyone said the Kol Chumiyah V'Chamiyah. Now we're chametz free, and now we spend the day relaxing and just getting ready and reading up on our Haggadah, getting ready for So we spend the day running around, getting ready for Yantiv, cooking like crazy and doing all these things. But in all seriousness, the poskim say that you really do. It's very important that for women especially, they say that you should make sure to rest on Erev Yantiv because we'll see all the mitzvahs halayla you have to do. Maybe it's not fair because you worked so hard and you worked so hard in advance, but the mitzvahs of the halayla you have to do. The dalet kosos women have to do. And hearing the whole Haggadah, reading the Haggadah, women have to do, and eating lamatz and the maror, all these things. And it's unfortunate sometimes women are very tired out by the time, men too can be, but very tired out by the time the Seder starts. I'm sorry?
Oh.
No, I'm just saying
about the end of it.
Okay, the end, okay, you do your best. But for sure the dalakosas, for sure the fourth cup you have to drink, for sure. The halacha is a person has to sell everything they have, the shirt off their back to do dalakosas. That's the halacha. It's one of the few halachas of the year that we have, and the person has to give everything they own in order to do this mitzvah. It's a very, very important mitzvah. So even if you're falling asleep, so finish up quickly at the end, but do the dalakosas. Men, women, everybody. And for sure eating afikomen, for sure. Okay, so let's get to this. So the mitzvah is the night that a person has to make sure to do. These are the important things. So there's a number of mitzvahs. It's a very special night. We get to do it, once a year. All these things once a year. Okay, so we have the mitzvah of. We'll just go through the Seder like kind of in order. So we start with Kadesh, right? So Kadesh is the mitzvah of Dalet Kosos. So it's different than a regular Kiddush. It happens to be the mitzvah of Kiddush is a mitzvah min Torah for sure. Pesach night, that's the mitzvah d'oraisa when you make Kiddush over there. But it's also the first of the 4 cups of wine. We have a mitzvah on Pesach night, a special mitzvah at the Seder, that not just to do the Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, to recount the story of Mitzrayim, but to do it specifically al HaSeder, to do it in a particular order, and to do it on 4 cups of wine, in reference to the pasuk of Hashem having saved us, or Tzalti, V'Galti, I don't know, I'm not going to embarrass myself and get it wrong, but the 4 Lashonos of Geula and the pasuk, that Hotzetzi, Yitalti, V'Galti, I don't remember. Lakachti? That's what Lakachti is the fourth? Okay, that's hope. So that's connected to those 4 Lashonos. So we have 4 cups of wine. Like I said, there's a mitzvah for everybody to do. Men, women, everybody above the age of 12 and 13, children who are Regiel Chinuch, have to do the mitzvah. The cup has to be, like for every time we make Kiddush, the cup has to be holding a revius, which, according to 4.5 ounces is according to everybody. If it's more than 3.5 ounces, then Rav Moshe Feinstein says it's enough. But the cup has to hold a revius. Sometimes they have these little cups, and that's you have to be very careful. A cup has to hold a revius. When you drink the cup, you have to drink rov kos. You have to, not just like regular Kiddush at night, only one person has to drink 1 cheekful, and then you're yotze. When it comes to dalet kosos, every person has to have a cup, and every person has to drink rov kos, the majority of the cup down. The mitzvah is to drink beheseba, leaning on the side. There's a question about women, whether women have to lean beheseba or not. For the matzah and for the dalet kosos, different minhagim. Do you guys know what you do? If you do or you don't?
How about left and
Women
right?
don't get pillows.
No, you go to the left, all to the left.
I think they were
Even if you're left-handed?
Yeah, but I don't think that changes your esophagus and your it has to do with the alignment of the esophagus and your windpipe. That when you go to the left, a person doesn't choke. I don't think that changes for lefty and a righty. I think it's the same setup over there. So the mitzvah is heseba. Like I said, for women, there's a question. Some do, some don't. The halacha is, you should do whatever it is that the minhag is. But even if your minhag is to do heseba, if you didn't, you don't have to drink it again or eat it again. Whereas a man, if they forget, let's say they eat the whole matzah, they do the whole kazayas, and they realize, oh my gosh, I wasn't leaning, they have to do it again. The mitzvah is to do heseba li'ikuva, so it's very important to remember.
Why is
to
that
remind
on
everybody.
the man and not the women?
So it's really on everybody, but the question is. There's a whole long discussion about this. It's an interesting thing. The question is, whether it's the derech of women to lean. So the Shulchan Aruch says it's not the derech of women to
They
lean.
used to lay down on the couch.
They used to recline and so it says it's not the derech except for noshim chashuvim, except for special women, very chashuv women. And comes the Ramah, and the Ramah says nowadays all women are chashuv, and therefore he says therefore they have to lean, as he says. So there's a shaila. It's really a shaila in the poskim. Some say yes, some say no. So if they say if you did, if your minhag is to do it, then you should. If you didn't, you don't have to repeat it. And if your minhag is not to, then not to. That's what they say. So other halachos, a person in front of his rebbe is not supposed to do his seba. If a person is having a seder, it's like not respectful to relax in that fashion in front of his rebbe. That's certain other halachos about that. But okay.
Even nowadays, like people just leaning.
Yeah. As far as I know, it's the halacha. As far as I know, that it doesn't change. As far as I know. Okay. So that's Kaddish. You should have in mind that you're being Mekayim. Again, the 2 mitzvahs. One mitzvah is the mitzvah of Kiddush for Pesach night. This year it's Pesach and Shabbos night. We get to do both of them, the double mitzvah over there. And we say first Kiddush of Shabbos, and then Yantif, and then we lean. And then and also the first the dalet kosos that we lean, drink rov kos. Okay, that's the first. Okay, then we kaddish urchatz. Urchatz, we wash our hands because we're about to have a vegetable dipped in water, which is going to be karpas. We wash without a bracha, and without a bracha. This is because really all the time there are many people who do. Some say everybody should. Others say not everybody should. But anytime you eat fruit or vegetable dipped in water or different liquids, oil. You should wash your hands like you wash for bread. Many people don't have the minute to do it, but on Pesach night we do it. One of the reasons is to get the kids to ask questions. There's a big point of this. We'll get to when we get to Magid. Okay, whether karpas, yachatz, we break the matzah. Okay, Magid. Now Magid is very important. This is one of the main mitzvahs of the night, mitzvah d'oraisa of the night. There's only 2 mitzvahs min Torah that we have, 3, let's say counting Kiddush. This night, mitzvah of Kiddush, the mitzvah of matzah. is min haTorah. Now all the other mitzvahs of the night of maror and that are only midrabanan nowadays without the carbon Pesach, but the mitzvah of matzah is still min haTorah, and the mitzvah of sipur yetzias Mitzrayim is a mitzvah min haTorah. Again, on every person, man, woman, and the people, the mitzvah is to be involved in the telling over of the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and to make sure that the kids are involved. The halachos about making sure the kids have candies and different things to keep them interested, to keep them engaged. Everybody has to follow along for Magid. It's not just like a husband who's like reading it and everybody else is talking and preparing in the kitchen and doing this. Everybody has a mitzvah to go through and read those words of Magid. If you want to read it in English, you're Yotzei reading it in English if you don't understand it in Hebrew. If you you're following along in the Hebrew, even if you don't understand it, you're Yotzei. But it's better if you understand it, if you could read along in the English. It's best if you could prepare a little bit in advance, if you have time between now and then to pick up an English Haggadah and kind of read a little bit and get a little bit of familiarity. But this is really like the main mitzvah of the night. It's not a side point. The mitzvah of Magid is really like the main mitzvah, and anything that we can do to try to bring the story alive and bring the lessons of the story alive, the lessons of Emunah, the lessons of Hashem running the world, that there's no teva in the world. That's what the Ramban says. There's no nature in the world. Everything is Hashem. All the nisim, everything he did was just to show us how much control he has over every aspect of the world. All of these ideas are what we're supposed to be imparting to our children. Chazal made a very, very big deal about Pesach and about this, all the mitzvahs, surrounding Pesach and the averes against Chametz and all these things. It's all about this. It's all about imparting this message to our children and getting across them the sipur yetzias Mitzrayim and the truth of the Torah about this. So the whole idea of Magid should really be focused on the kids and not elaborate divrei Torah and not all things, but whatever is going to keep the kids engaged, whatever asking stories. I'm not very good at this. The truth is, just happens to me. It's not my specialty. Every year I try to think of different ways, different things to do, but it's supposed to be about the children. It's supposed to be about trying to keep the kids engaged and hearing the story and remembering this experience and keeping this as a part of their consciousness and part of their psyche. So whatever we can do to make that happen, acting out the 10 plagues and all different things that people do to dressing up. What did you say?
Throw things.
People throw things, different things. All these types of things are different things you can do.
Does everybody have to say every word, or is it like if people?
No, it's like Shomei Kona, but you have to be following along. In other words,
like some people, like my parents used to do like taking turns.
Yeah, a lot of people do that. Yeah, we do the same thing, but you should be following along. In other words, it's not just like being in the room while it's being read is not the mitzvah. That person is reading is Shomei Kona, and if that person is like a youngster, less than 12 or 13, then you really do have to read along. You should read the words actually. You know what I mean? If it's a kid reading.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a mitzvah to read these. To read these words. Okay, so that's the mitzvah of Magid, and Kol Amar B'Harei Meshubach. As much as you can speak about it, they say when when you get to the meal after eating matzah and all these things, once you're in the meal, so the more that you speak about Yetzias Mitzrayim and telling stories and that during the meal, that's all part of the mitzvahs of the night of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yeah.
If you have very little children at the table who like toddler age and 6, 7, whatever, you have to say it as it's written in the Haggadah, or you can...
You definitely have to say the words that are written, but you can, in addition to that, add in whatever you want to add, but you can't like skip over this section and just sing a song instead that'll keep the kids engaged. In other words, there's still a mitzvah to read this text of the Haggadah.
He can read it.
Yeah, he can read it through and make sure he's reading it through. But to stop at whatever point and do whatever things with the kids, that's fine.
When our kids were really little, like too little to sit, like for the whole thing, we always did not. We managed to not present. That was something they could play with.
Good. Keep
like a
them
doll,
around.
like a little.
That keeps them at the table.
Right.
Them
Like they wouldn't like disappear.
Oh, that's a great idea.
But
very good idea.
Like 4-year-olds, 5-years are not going to like listen.
Right.
But I always tried or a book, like something like a picture book, something that like would keep.
Right.
Them
So something that's engaging. It's the Rambam says this to bring candies and things like that to the Seder to keep the kids going. To for questions. In my family, one of the things it was like anytime they ask any question, like however simple, however it is, any question that they ask about the proceedings or about what's going on, so they get a treat for asking the question. And if one of the kids suggests an answer, they get a treat for the answer. Anything we try to do. Almonds, okay, that's what the Rambam says. He says candy is the klayos. Yeah, the Rambam says that also. He says that also. I didn't want to say candies are nuts because I didn't think so many people did that. But okay, that's what he says. He says candies are nuts.
Rabbi Mizrahi says that they hang bags on their ceiling. So for the last 2 years running, we've had a string across the ceiling, and there's 10. Each kid has 10 bags, and in each bag is like something related to each plague.
Oh,
so
wow.
when it comes to it, and they have to answer
When does she
questions.
cook? Wow.
No, so we do it as
Wow,
well,
wow.
and every time, so they have to answer questions, and they get to pull a bag down.
Wow. Okay,
And
great.
yeah,
Great,
They
great.
They pull it. It's like hanging in the room. You said.
hanging on a string across the table.
Great. No, anything that can be done to keep the kids
And when they
engaged
have
is,
to cook,
you know, is
related
yeah,
to
is
plate.
good. Okay, I'm going to stop the video share. I realized from my thing I can only record for 1 hour and then it stops. I'm gonna stop the video. We can go on here for a few more minutes if you want to, but we'll do. Okay, Chag Kasher V'Smeach, everybody, and we're going off to Poland next week, and then we'll see what we have to Pesach.